know who I am.
When we are finished with you, you'll no longer be yourself.
I remember. I remember everything.
Remembering everything doesn't mean you know everything.
Tell me.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Back to the Theater, a movie review podcast. My name is Peter Waters, and with me is...
I'm Matt Veal. Hope everyone's having a good day.
So do I. And today's episode, we will be discussing not Matt Veal, but another Matt, one who's a little more famous and kicks a little bit more ASS.
McConaughey?
No, not Matthew McConaughey. Matt Damon. Oh, Matt, don't you know?
Oh, I should have known.
You should know, Matt, because you
know
you got to prepare for the episodes.
I know.
Okay.
Dang.
So sorry. But anyway, so we're reviewing Jason Bourne, the fifth movie in the Bourne franchise. But before we move on to our review, Matt, do we want to give a quick shout out to a potential fan?
Yes, we do. It's not a potential fan. It is our fan, Jay Russell, who kindly commented on our Facebook page and gave us some wonderful feedback. Jay, if you are listening, we thank you very much, and we appreciate your feedback.
Yes, we appreciate your feedback to our single fan. Hopefully we'll get more soon. But
keep on listening.
Keep on listening. We at least know that Jay Russell out there, you're listening. I don't know how you're listening to us, but hopefully all your clothes are on. But yeah, and if you feel like leaving feedback, please feel free to do so.
Facebook or YouTube?
Facebook, YouTube, and also you can leave us a review on iTunes. You don't have to leave us a review. You can also rate us out of 5 stars. I hope you don't give us a 1, but if that's...
Preferably 5s, please.
Yeah, preferably 5s, but, you got to be honest, so, do what you got to do, but... I hope we're not just bombarded with a bunch of 1 stars now that we mentioned that. But
well, we'll find out soon enough, Peter.
All right. Anyway, so moving on to our regularly scheduled programming. Today we will be talking about Jason Bourne, as I said before. Again, this is the 5th Bourne. Or I like to pretend it's the 4th Bourne because I kind of want to forget all about the, chems and all those... disappointing elements of the Bourne legacy with Jeremy Renner. Let's just pretend that never happened, Matt. Let's just move on. And
okay, I'll agree with you there.
Yeah, in my own head, Bourne legacy never happened.
Who's Jeremy Renner?
Yeah, so Matt Damon, he's not really back. He's just continuing the series where he never left, right?
Right.
Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, so the Bourne movies. In case you don't know, they're basically a spy series about a guy who suffers memory loss. He used to be a spy for the CIA, and basically he slowly recovers his memory. He has amnesia, and as he recovers his memory, he remembers his connections with these sort of shady CIA soldier training programs that are basically like they're trained hitmen and things like that. And it's based on a series of novels by Robert Ludlum. And the series started with the Bourne Identity, and it was taken over for parts 2 and 3 by director Paul Greengrass, who directed The Bourne Supremacy and The Bourne Ultimatum, the 2nd and 3rd entries. And as opposed to the sort of Hitchcockian thriller elements of The Bourne Identity, Greengrass brought in a sort of guerrilla, rough and tumble style quality to the sequels. Not really a classic spy thriller, but more of this sort of gritty, realistic style that is no doubt comes from his background as a journalist. And in many ways, this style sort of defines action thrillers even to this day. Sort of the Bourne films under Paul Greengrass, we see their influence in most political action thrillers today. So, Matt, hearing all that, what is your experience with the Bourne franchise? Are you a diehard fan of this series? Are you just a casual viewer who just thinks they're aight? all right. That's slang for all right. I'm sorry I even
No, it's
tried to
okay.
say
It's
that.
okay.
Or have you never seen any of the Bourne films? And depending on where you're coming from, what did you think of this 5th entry in the series, and how does it compare to the other films in the series?
Well, Peter, I am a really big fan of the original 3 that Matt Damon worked on. I enjoyed Doug Liman's first film, but I really love Paul Greengrass's style on the other 2 films. I love his journalistic quality, add in modern themes such as surveillance and security to Supremacy and Ultimatum. And it just made for not only entertaining viewing, but it makes you question at the end that this could happen in reality. Saying that, I was really not a fan of Legacy, the Jeremy Renner film from 2012. I was very disappointed in that because it wasn't even about Jason Bourne. It was just some random, really bland story. And I was hoping that when Greengrass and Damon decided to take over duties from Lynn and Renner, that it would be a huge comeback. We'd be raving about this on the show. I'd be so happy saying the studio was right. But Peter, you're going to be very shocked because I didn't tell you this. I walked out of Jason Bourne extremely disappointed.
Extremely disappointed?
Yes, I was.
How extreme, Matt? Are we talking Tony Hawk extreme?
Well, up there. The thing is, I expected more from Greengrass and Damon being back together. The thing is with this, the story was really, really stupid, I thought. I didn't dig the whole, oh, my dad was behind it. Oh.
Whoa, Matt. Spoilers. Let's save it for the spoilers.
Yeah, but that's all I was going to say, just that.
Okay.
It's an overdone story, and not that original, and it kind of feels like a parody of a Jason Bourne movie instead of a real Jason Bourne movie. Saying that I didn't like the story does not mean that the technical stuff was bad. I thought Greengrass himself did a very good job directing the movie. I liked most of the action scenes he did. Most of the acting was good. Albeit, I was very surprisingly disappointed in Alicia Vikander. I thought her American accent was so all over the place, and she consistently broke accent. I expected so much more from an Academy Award-winning actress. And just seeing her, using her native Icelandic, I believe, accent, and then going straight to an American just was so jarring to me. It's obvious Greengrass didn't know how to handle her, which is really disappointing for me because he works well with actors, as you saw with Captain Phillips with Tom Hanks. And for the most part, I think the movie suffers from a huge fatal flaw, which I don't believe will be fixed in any sequel if they do one. The big fatal flaw is, this is not a spoiler, this is pretty much revealed in the trailers, and if you've seen Ultimatum, Jason Bourne now knows who his past really is. It makes him a less interesting character. The story's not as necessary now that he knows who he is. And it makes you question, why even bother? So, honestly, Peter, I went in with really high expectations because of these two dream team, if you will. But in the end, I think this is one of the biggest franchise disappointments since Star Wars The Phantom Menace.
Okay.
Not as extreme as that, but pretty disappointing.
Not Tony Hawk extreme as that.
Exactly. So I'm curious.
More like, I don't know. I can't even think of another skateboarder.
How about Shaun White?
Shaun White, well, he doesn't skate. He's not a skateboarder, but close
He's
enough.
still cool.
It's a board-related extreme sport. So.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I guess I liked the movie more than you did.
Really?
I didn't love it. I do think it's the worst of the 3 Greengrass Bournes, but I did find myself enjoying it in a similar manner to the other ones. But basically, first off, I think I'm overall less of a fan of the overall series as you. I think you definitely went in, you said, with high expectations for this
I
movie.
did. And we talked about this, like, the past couple of weeks. We're like, oh, this is going to be an easy review. There's no way it could be bad. And I was, like, really... Well, not bad, but I was just not happy.
Well, I didn't think it was bad. But I overall think the series is just sort of like a fun, almost like a guilty pleasure type series. I don't think it's like some brilliant like story. Like they're really just sort of mindless, guy on the run from the government super spy movies. Especially the Greengrass films, they're really like just wall-to-wall action, I find. And
but with the wall-to-wall action, what made the original Greengrass film so compelling is that mystery of he still doesn't know who he is. And
well, they do a little bit of that in this movie,
but not
with his
not
father.
as not that good of quality compared to the other.
It's
two.
not. It's exactly that's why. Well, I'll get into a little bit more with spoilers with that, obviously, but I mean, the thing is, it does almost everything that the old Bourne's films do. Like, it really follows the same exact formula. So, it's not like dumb things left from right. It surprised me. I mean, so many elements are exactly the same as Supremacy, Ultimatum, and Identity. For instance, there is yet another... it just seems like cookie cutter at this point. Like, Bourne is on the run from government agents who want to kill him. They send like some single assassin to get him, and that's like one element that's exactly the same. And then another element that's exactly the same. There's yet another training program that they are trying to keep under wraps. Every movie there's a new training program. It's like, aren't they gonna like learn their lesson of how to keep these training programs under more security, and yet again there's an old white jerk behind it in the government who is trying to keep it secure. There's a young woman that helps Bourne out of a jam. There's a woman within the government that's sort of caught in the middle between the two sides, and so all those elements are exactly the same. The sort of chess pieces are lined up exactly the same way as all the other films. The only thing that they added, which, again, I'll get into spoilers more, I thought this was pretty not handled very well. The only new thing they added, unfortunately, was not handled well, was this subplot involving the Silicon Valley
my goodness.
element.
Thank you for bringing that up. I absolutely agree. Like, they could have taken that whole subplot out and the movie would have not been impacted whatsoever.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't had enough time to unpack the film to see what would be affected if you got rid of that, but
nothing.
It really seems like yet another. I mean, you used this to praise the other films, though, about like surveillance and like how many times are we going to see that same plot in a spy film, like surveillance? Oh, there's this new program, there's a new thing where the government can spy on everyone at all times. Like, how many times? I mean, I'm sure the list goes on and on and on of movies that. No,
I agree with you there. It's just the way they handled it here. I just felt like they didn't really connect it to the main plot of the movie at all. They're like, oh, let's put this plot in.
It definitely does not connect. It feels like it's shoehorned in. It really does.
And Greengrass said the main character involved in the Silicon Valley thing is the future of the Bourne franchise.
If he is, I hope they improve.
Agreed.
And but anyway, some of my other thoughts. I still think Matt Damon is great as Jason Bourne.
Is.
I think he does a really amazing job. Not amazing. He does a really good job in this as well, even though I don't know how old Matt Damon is, but he's getting
in his
up
40s.
There. He's in his 40s, and he's still kicking ass. And in this movie, especially because it takes place many years after Ultimatum, which was like 10 years ago.
9 years, but close enough.
Close enough. It's almost a decade ago that movie came out. And if he's aging in real time within this series, he comes to this film, he's been on the run basically for 10 years, and you really read it in Matt Damon's face. Like, the character's been on the run. Matt Damon has not been on the run for 10 years. He's been a solid actor in those 10 years. But Jason Bourne, he's been on the run. He's like this nomad throughout Europe, going from like his only way to like sustain himself, I guess, is
boxing.
Yeah, not even boxing, just like basically Fight Club. He goes to these underground, like hand-to-hand combat matches and just beats the crap out of people. And he just seems like this worn down, beaten guy. He kind of reminded me of like the old grizzled gunslinger in a Western. Like this guy who's really old and he's been in the game a long time, but he can still kick a lot of ass.
Right. I agree with you on that, but I wish that part of the movie was given more time than some of the other lesser subplots. Because I thought,
what do you mean?
I wish we see more of the old, like, beat up and just down with the world Jason Bourne, who's just beating up people senselessly.
Well, I mean, we see enough of that.
I wanted more, honestly. That was just my opinion of it.
You want the Bourne, the sad they made him.
Or, something like that.
Well, anyway, I think we both agree at least that Matt Damon.
Oh, absolutely. There's one scene that he shows a lot of emotion and a lot of anger, and he did a very good job in that aspect.
Yeah. But one place I disagree is that I actually liked Alicia Vikander in this film. And I thought she was one of the more complex characters in the series as a whole.
I don't agree with you at all. I thought they gave her nothing to do, just sit there and look pretty.
All right, well, let me defend myself then, Matt. Well, actually, I'll defend myself more in spoilers because I don't want to give anything away. But basically, I liked how, even more so than Pamela Landy, who was in Supremacy and Ultimatum, she was like a government agent who was working to help catch Bourne, but she was slowly uncovering the facts behind the thing and realizing, wait a minute, the government's dealing in some shady stuff. Whereas, so she was basically a good guy who Pamela Landy, we're on her side throughout the film. Even though she's chasing after Bourne, she doesn't realize the extent at first to which, and then she ultimately, spoilers for Bourne Ultimatum, I think, she actually helps in the end Jason Bourne get away. She faxes documents, saying what Blackbriar is and all these things. So she turns out to be this unequivocal good guy by the end. Whereas Alicia Vikander, she has a very similar role of someone who wants to help Bourne, but is also with the government. But instead of just realizing that the government is corrupt and, just helping Bourne, she actually has a little bit of a dark side to her. And she is definitely much more so this ambivalent, mysterious character. And even at the end, it's unclear exactly. I mean, it's minor spoilers. You don't really know exactly, even by the end, which side she ultimately falls on. If she's with Bourne or not, or if she's just looking out for herself, and she vacillates. She'll do anything to get ahead. I just thought that character aspect, the fact that because at first I thought, oh, here we go, another Pamela Landy. They couldn't get Joan Allen back, so they just hire this other person. But I thought they did. I really liked her sort of femme fatale, ambiguous relationship to Bourne and the government. That's what
I didn't like that at all. Like I thought everything you said was the exact opposite how I felt of her. I thought her character was extremely obvious and not really a femme fatale.
Wait, what? How is she obvious? What side is she on then, Matt?
I think she's on the good side from the get-go.
You mean on Bourne's side?
Not to mention.
All right, we'll get into this in spoilers.
With the exception of the beginning. Like I'll explain more later.
Well, I can't argue with you without coming up with scenes that are near the end of the film. So we'll get to it, but I will contest you later. But anyway, were you gonna say something or?
No. All I was gonna say is everything that you said about Alicia Vikander's character, I don't agree with at all. I was hoping so much more with her, given that she has Academy Award for two big roles that she had last year, and this was just. It was an underutilized role that I was expected so much from Greengrass, especially.
Well, I think we'll have to save that for the spoilers discussion because I have a lot more to say about it, I think. But anyway, so I liked Alicia Vikander, and I do like how this film, the pace never stops. Just like the other Greengrass Bourne, I almost said Bond, Bourne films is... they're pure action films. They are just, once they start, they never stop. They just go forward, forward, forward. And the whole movie, it never takes a single breath, for better or worse. So.
I agree, but there are a few times where I felt it was some scenes could have been cut down a little bit. But for the most part, I do agree with you.
Maybe. But I really think it never stops moving. And I think also the music, the music's very repetitive, but I love the score.
I did too.
Series, like that Bourne theme. I like that. So those were the things I liked. The things I didn't like, this might be controversial with you, but I really, in all three of Greengrass's films, I hate that shaky cam aesthetic that he goes for, that, grungy, like, he wants to separate himself from James Bond and all these other things so much that he shakes the camera, and it's like, it's supposed to feel real and like, oh, this is like, on the ground and not, it has this level of improvisation to the camera work, but I really don't like it at all. It's very distracting. It's semi-nauseating, and worst of all, it takes away from the action scenes. Like, the action scenes are set up. I really love the action in this film, and the shaky cam literally ruins the enjoyment of what could be amazing action because it's so disorienting. It's like, I think someone needs to tell Greengrass and his DP that the camera is not a Yahtzee shaker. He doesn't realize, I don't know, like, to me, it's just disorienting in a bad way, and it didn't add anything. It ruined the film almost.
This is a controversial point that you brought up, Peter, because I like Greengrass's handheld aesthetic. Like, I think it makes it a little more. It puts you right in the action. It makes it more like a documentary feel than a standard movie feel. But
even documentaries have a certain level of like
control,
not that shaky. It really seems like every scene is shot in an airplane that is crashing towards Earth or something. Like, I don't know.
Saying that, I actually felt that the shaky cam was more in control in this movie than his other two.
Oh, I don't even agree with that. Like, I think this one was even worse than the other ones, but
I actually felt fine throughout the whole time. Like, I felt there was much less shaky cam than Ultimatum or Supremacy.
I don't know. Well, I guess it's just that style is for some people, not for others, and it's just definitely not for me.
It only works in certain movies. I do agree with you there.
And overall, I did find the film was very generic, like I pointed out before. It's going through the motions, the same Bourne template. Like you, even though I overall like the film, I don't see a reason why it exists. Like, it doesn't really add anything to the series overall. I mean, if you've seen the other Bourne films, you've pretty much seen this one already. I liked it for what it was, this sort of, generic, for a generic action movie. I was satisfied. It's not mind-blowing at all, but I didn't hate it. But I don't know. So what would you give it? What is your final rating?
Here's the thing, Peter. Like, I didn't hate this movie either. I was just more really disappointed with it. Like, this was a really...
You likened it to Phantom Menace. That's how much you hated it.
Well, here's the thing. Phantom Menace is a much worse movie. And I was more disappointed in this than Legacy, because Legacy was just an overall bad movie, even though Jason Bourne itself is a much better film. I had a really hard time coming up with a star rating for it, but I boiled it down to this. The action scenes were above par. They were all very well choreographed and well handled. The directing, for the most part, was very good. The acting was very good. There are some themes of surveillance and security that are handled really well. It's just the story is just so bad, and I thought it was really, really shoehorned in with some subplots, and I didn't really like the overall plot of this movie. But technical-wise, that's all it boiled down to. I did find myself entertained a good amount of the time, to the point where I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5, but it's a very low 3 out of 5.
Okay, well, judging by what we said to each other, you'd think we'd have completely opposite opinions, but I also give it a 3 out of 5, even though I enjoyed it. I think
it was almost a 2.5 out of 5 for me.
Yeah, I almost gave it a 3.5. See, that's the thing. I was on the edge of giving it a 3.5.
I wouldn't rush out to see this if you're a huge fan. I'd wait till DVD, personally.
My verdict is that if you're a fan of the Bourne series, I mean, I know, Matt, you are, but I mean, you know, everybody's different. I think if you've watched the other Bourne films and enjoyed them, I think there's enough, you know, great action scenes. There's enough, you know, Matt Damon being Matt Damon as Bourne in this that you'll not regret seeing it. I think if you've never seen a Bourne film, I wouldn't recommend with this one. I would just rent the first one on DVD or something, but I'd say Bourne fans who have stuck with it through all this time, I think you should watch this film. I think you will enjoy it, but I guess, Matt, you didn't.
I agree you can watch it, but just don't expect it to be the ultimate comeback sequel, because it's not.
Yeah. Anyway, so any last thoughts before we move into spoilers?
No, I do not. So let's get on to the spoiler show.
We've just been hacked. Could be worse than Snowden.
Facial recognition got a hit.
Jesus Christ, that's Jason Bourne.
Why would he come back now?
All right. So, spoilers. The movie starts off, Jason Bourne starts out with a brief flashback that pretty much acts as a recap that really won't help initiate people, I feel, who aren't already familiar with Bourne. It's this very brief flashback of Bourne/David Webb when he first joined Treadstone, and we get this little, like, you know, his trippy dream. I guess he's dreaming, yeah, because he's like kind of napping. And we find out that after this brief recap that Bourne, after he's exposed Blackbriar at the end of Bourne Ultimatum, he's been basically turned into a nomad wandering around Europe, and he has been making this miserable living in this, like, you know, UFC dirty fighting combat ring, and I forget exactly where he is. Isn't he in Serbia or something?
He's in some Middle Eastern country in this.
Some Middle Eastern country, and they build up this fight. They build it up like he's going to fight this guy, like a hand-to-hand combat, and you think, oh, it's going to be this big action scene, but he just basically, Bourne just takes off he wraps his hands in bandages or cloth or whatever, walks into the ring, and then knocks a guy out with one punch. And so that's our introduction to Jason Bourne. He's older and maybe a little bit more sad and miserable, but he can still punch a guy's lights out.
Yep, and he does a good job.
What did you think? What did you think of that scene? Did you think that was a good reintroduction back to Jason Bourne?
Yes, I did, actually.
With that single punch Middle Eastern scene?
Even though it was a bit ridiculous, yes, I thought it was a good opening for the most part.
I thought that was badass, like, you know.
Yeah, I agree. I thought it just shows how cool of a character Jason Bourne is in the fighting aspects.
Yeah, he can just knock a guy out with one punch. It says it all. He doesn't say a word that whole scene. All you have to do is punch that one guy out. And it's a very visceral punch. Like, every punch and hit and gunshot in this movie has, like, way more power than I feel like reality would ever have. So they're a little bit heightened. So then after that sequence, we see Nikki Parsons, the Julia Stiles character. She is in Iceland.
I do want to comment on Julia Stiles, if I have a second.
Yeah.
It is so refreshing to finally see her back in a huge Hollywood movie again.
Yeah,
I don't know why they've been hiding her so long.
Well, I don't have her IMDb page up or anything like that. I don't know.
Like, she hasn't done anything in a while until this, so...
Yeah, I don't know.
It's so good to finally see her back in something worthwhile.
Yeah, she's a solid actress. I think her scene in Bourne Supremacy, where Bourne pulls the gun on her, is one of the best scenes in the whole series. Oh, I agree. Very intense acting.
Yes, it is.
Anyway, Nikki Parsons, she's in Iceland. She goes to some She's in some warehouse in Iceland, and there's a bunch of hackers. It's like this den of hackers, and she, like Bourne, is on the run from the government and things. So she's a nomad as well, walking from place to place in Europe, and she basically hacks into the CIA mainframe because she's like a hacker with, skills, I guess, and she uploads a virus to their system while also extracting a bunch of files from their various nefarious soldier training programs, like Treadstone and all those things. So, including we see information on Bourne and his father, Richard Webb, father of Daniel Webb, David Webb, who is also Jason Bourne. And so she extracts those files, puts it on her little drive, and then she literally burns the evidence and burns all the computers, which, part of me was a little sad to see her burn all that equipment. Those hackers probably paid a lot of money for it. But
yeah, they did.
Yeah.
It was kind of a stupid scene again, but
I didn't think it was. I thought that was a cool scene. I thought she was badass. Like, she's hacking, because in the other movies she's more of a damsel in distress, and in this one she's like hacking away, and she pulls out a gun on the hackers and says, don't come near me. I know I have, she's like the ultimate hacker, and she burns the computers. I thought it was cool. I don't know.
No, it was a cool scene, like unrealistic, but cool.
I don't know why you would think it was... well, I guess the fact that she can hack into the CIA so easily is unrealistic.
No, it's just, we'll go more into detail on Nikki later on. But.
Yeah. But anyway, so she hacks there, and then we cut to CIA headquarters in Langley, Virginia, where we're introduced to the character I liked, Matt didn't, Heather Lee, played by Alicia Vikander. And she's
the one that sounds like... Oh, hello, and then
I
the
didn't
next
notice
scene,
any.
hello.
I don't know what accent you had a problem with. I didn't have any problem with how she talked.
Oh, she consistently broke accent, Peter.
I don't know what. Maybe I just wasn't paying enough attention. It was not. And if there was a broken accent, I don't know what Matt was listening to, but it did not bother me whatsoever. It was
breaking
fine.
accents really bother me.
Listeners, it was not. Believe me, it's not that bad.
I thought it was bad.
Well, Matt, you're a singular person. But anyway, Heather Lee, she's the head of the Cyber Ops Division of the CIA, and she notices that Julia Stiles is hacking into their mainframe and says, what the heck is going on here? And she notifies her superiors, of whom the CIA director, Robert Dewey, is played by none other than Tommy Lee Jones.
Who I loved in this movie, by the way.
Yeah, he's definitely... If Tommy Lee Jones is a verb, he's definitely Tommy Lee Jonesing. If
yes.
He has that face that is, Tommy Lee only.
He was actually a great villain in what I considered a mediocre movie.
Yeah. So once Tommy Lee Jones hears of this, he realizes that Bourne is somehow involved, and he's come out of the woodwork again. He doesn't know how or why, but he's like. He knows he sniffs the air and just knows Jason Bourne is there, and he's afraid that this is going to jeopardize his latest ominously titled super secret soldier program, Iron Hand. It was Treadstone in the first movie, and then it was Blackbriar, and now it's Iron Hand. All these,
They should have retitled it Retreadstone.
Oh, okay. Well, but anyway, it's Iron Hand. So to stop Bourne from whatever he's going to do, he doesn't even know really if Bourne's involved in what capacity. He just knows that, he basically is looking for an excuse to take him out anyway, probably. So to do so, he contacts one of his quote-unquote assets in the field, played by Vincent Cassell, and he hires him to take him out. And I'm not.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah.
Don't get me started on him.
Why are you saying it so gravely? I thought he was awesome in this movie.
I thought it was such a stupidly written character.
He wasn't.
Did good.
He didn't even. I don't know how he was. We'll get into spoilers, but he's really just another. Every Bourne movie. This is another. Thing all the Bourne movies have. They just have some assassin that we learn nothing about the whole film. This assassin, at least we got some backstory, and there's personal stakes involved between him and Bourne.
Not explained enough, though.
I thought it was explained. I don't know how you could explain more. I thought that was actually one of the few things I liked. That's the only thing about his character, and I really liked the way that was done. I mean, not really liked, but it was better than, Carl Urban in Ultimatum, who literally just is there. He doesn't do any, he's just after Bourne. And Clive Owen from the first film, we don't learn anything about those characters. But the Vincent Cassel character, there's personal stakes, and we understand why he has this strong vendetta against Bourne. He's not just a mindless drone for the government. He has personal stakes. I thought it added a lot more to the film than the other films, but
I don't agree, but
I'll say what those stakes are later when I get to it. But anyway, actually, I have it here. Yeah, we learned that basically at the end of Bourne Ultimatum, when Blackbriar was exposed to the world, that compromised certain missions for people in the field. So this asset character, his team was like discovered or something and then killed, I think, is what happened. And so he personally holds Bourne accountable for his teammates being killed. And at the same time, we learn that, I'm jumping ahead, but at the same time, we learn from Bourne's perspective, Jason Bourne's perspective, that the Vincent Cassel character had a hand in murdering his father. So they both murdered people that each other cares about, for what they felt was, either a job or what was right at the time. So I thought that added up to, stakes in the final action scene. It wasn't just, Carl Urban just, chasing after a guy randomly for no reason. I mean, how can you think the other films are better when this film at least attempts to give the character something?
Well, I'll give you that. I honestly preferred the mindless drones because it shows control of the government that they had. Like this, I felt I thought Vincent Cassel was personally really over the top in the role. I thought he was more trying to be like the Terminator rather than an actual character.
I mean, so are all the other assassins. They're assassins. That's what they're meant to be. They're literally Terminators. So
I get, but I thought this one just felt goofy rather than the other two.
Oh, I didn't think he was goofy at all. I thought he was pretty badass. He just executes that guy in the bathtub like very coldly. I thought he was a good assassin, but I guess we'll have to agree to disagree on that.
We do on this.
So anyway, then I forget what happens, but Nikki meets with Bourne. I don't remember how she contacts Bourne.
Bourne's fighting, and then he sees Nikki at the fight. And then they meet up after.
Right. Yeah, they meet up after. But then they meet in the middle of they agree to meet in the middle of a street riot in Greece. And she basically tells him that, I found out information about your father and you and all these things in your past that, because Bourne thinks that, or actually, no, he learned in the third. Actually, I don't remember. Does Bourne know at this point that he didn't himself choose? He was kind of coerced.
Yeah, he found out in the third film that he chose himself.
Oh yeah, but in this film, he realized that he didn't really choose himself. It was in fact the catalyst for him choosing was the CIA setting up the Vincent Cassel character to kill his father, and because he didn't know that it was the Cassel character. He thought that it was a terrorist. So the CIA set all that up. So it's this big, complicated plan that, that we learn about. So it all makes sense in the film. I don't know if my explanation is that clear, but
it's fair enough, I think.
This is spoilers, so you presumably have already seen the film anyway.
Don't continue on if you haven't.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, they meet in the middle of Greece because they figure they're harder to track there. but not for the asset.
They're already being caught.
Yeah, they're being caught. And this is the beginning of a really great action scene with a really shaky camera, unfortunately. But basically, Bourne hops on top of a motorcycle, and there's this long chase scene where Vincent Cassel tries to track them with his like sniper rifle thing. And it's this long chase through while there's like rioters in the streets of Greece throwing like Molotov cocktails at police. Bourne is like driving this motorcycle really quickly through like side streets. It's a very exciting kinetic scene. So I don't know what you thought about it.
Here's the thing with this. I thought this was the weakest action scene in the whole movie, personally, because there's so many stupid things involved with it. Like, one of them being that whole domino effect where one attacks Nikki, and then the person that attacked Nikki gets attacked by Bourne, who then gets attacked by another guy. I thought that part itself was really stupid. And I thought the fact that Vincent Cassel's character was driving in a burning car, doesn't get hurt at all, was also very stupid. But the rest of it was fine.
I'm trying to remember back, like, the order of things. I just remember him with a sniper rifle, and then at the end of the scene, he shoots Nikki in the back. And then Bourne flips, because of that, Bourne, hits a wall and flips over the side of a car. And Nikki is just like, she's shot. She's like bleeding out, like slowly and in pain. And Bourne, he's hiding behind the wall. And before he has a chance to really do anything, Vincent Cassel puts the final fatal blow into Julia Stiles.
And this is where I'm going to comment. I felt that killing off Nikki too early was not a good move. They should have killed her off much later in the movie, because I feel when they killed her off, it completely abandoned the subplot of her hacking into the system, and she should have stayed in the movie at least halfway through and then killed her off.
Well, what else could she have done with the hacking plot?
Like, it at least would have been a better subplot than the Silicon Valley one. It actually had stakes. Like, she had some information. She was about to tell him. She was supposed to explain more, but still.
She didn't know anything more than what was on that drive, though. So Bourne learned everything she was going to tell him.
Mm-hmm. I'll give you that, but I personally I thought, like, I remember you not being a fan of killing off Bryan Cranston at the first 15 minutes of Godzilla. This is my version of that.
Spoilers, Matt. Way spoilers for Godzilla.
But this is the spoiler section, so this is okay.
Not for Godzilla. You just spoiled Godzilla for everyone who hasn't seen it.
Oh well, but
anyway.
But still, I felt this extreme reaction that I felt they shouldn't have killed her off this early.
I mean, I agree that I'm sad to see Julia Stiles dead, but I don't think anything within this movie would have been better with her not dead. So I don't know.
And I felt everything that about her too was quickly forgotten as soon as she was killed.
Yeah.
That's what I didn't like.
Yeah, I definitely feel... maybe this is just very cynical of me to think this, but I do think that partially, maybe this is just because of Hollywood, and once women reach a certain age and they're not hot and young anymore... I mean, she's, aged like Matt Damon. She's, like, getting slightly older.
She's in the 40s, too.
She's in her 40s. I feel like they killed her off, and let's bring in Alicia Vikander. She's the hot, young, new actress.
Sadly
and
enough,
now she's
I agree.
the hacker. I feel like that definitely crossed my mind, like, in the film.
Oh, I don't disagree with you.
Like you said, Julia Stiles, we haven't seen her in a lot of movies recently, and partially because, Hollywood looks for the young, hot actresses. They don't care how talented you are. They just want you to, look like you just came from nursery school, basically.
Well, not that extreme there, but...
Well, yeah, I'm obviously over-exaggerating, but... So, there we go. So, she's shot dead. Bourne feels, as you would imagine, pretty bad about that. And then we get to our favorite part of the film, the Silicon Valley scene. And...
I am going to say one thing about the Silicon Valley scene that I really did enjoy. Riz Ahmed, who was great in Nightcrawler a few years ago, I actually thought was a really, really good character, but not explained well enough.
Well, let's just explain exactly what the Silicon Valley scene is. Basically, it's there's this convention or a presentation happening.
It's a convention.
It's a convention, and it's for this social media program that we don't really learn what it is.
Dream something, I believe it's called.
Deep Dream, and it was developed by this Mark Zuckerberg type young entrepreneur tech guru in Silicon Valley named Aaron Kalor, and the only thing we learn about this program, not what it does, but he just repeats over and over again that this is going to be very private. All users will have their utmost privacy. And then what do you know? Later we learn that secretly Kalor has been working with the CIA, who wants to use Deep Dream for surveillance purposes. So we go from this is the most private thing you will ever see in the world to the CIA wanting to use it for surveillance. I thought that was kind of a funny, ironic thing that they needed. I wish they developed it a little bit more, but I thought that was just that idea was like so funny.
And for me, it given light on the Edward Snowden situation, I thought that was a good metaphor to that.
They name drop Snowden in the film, like we have another
3
Snowden
times
on our hands. And I also thought it was similar to, didn't Apple come across the same problem with like their iPhones? They wouldn't let the government like go through certain security channels.
And they eventually did it.
They did eventually do it?
Yes.
Allow them to?
Yes, it did.
That's not good. Yeah, we're constantly being watched, Matt. So, but anyway, I thought the Deep Dream thing, if they handled it better, it could have been interesting, but it's just so vague. We don't even know what Deep Dream is. Like, by the name of it, it sounds like it should be some virtual reality thing or some cutting-edge technology.
It was, honestly.
But they literally say nothing about it other than it will give they'll say it will give consumers the utmost privacy, and it's just an excuse for this plot line of the government will be watching everyone and they want to keep it under wraps and things.
Which is sad because, like, as I mentioned like a minute or two ago, I thought Riz Ahmed did a very good job as Aaron. Like, I was really impressed with his performance in this movie.
I thought he was definitely believable as that, like, tech guru guy who, like...
And the opposite of his character, Nightcrawler, who's kind of the scared, like, trying to be the best at what he does, and then he eventually just...
Yeah. He was much more timid in that film, whereas he's very confident in this film.
Yeah, and I'm excited for his role in Rogue One, because I'm curious... with seeing these two opposite roles, what he's going to do with that.
Yeah. So, anyway, we learned that. And then the key that Nikki threw to Bourne in her death throes, basically in Greece, Bourne goes to a safe box, and he finds directions to one of her former associates in Berlin. And once Bourne goes to this apartment, I think it's an apartment, where one of Nikki's former associates is, he looks up the information that was on that drive, and he finds out via acid flashback that his father was involved with Treadstone, and he remembers, how Bourne will sporadically remember key events from his life, like as he learns about them throughout the series. He remembers the last day he saw his father, and that he basically said, "Oh, I'll be right back" or something, and then he gets up and then he's blown up or something.
He gets shot at.
Yeah. No, doesn't his car blow up?
Yes, you're right. My apologies.
Yeah.
You are right.
Yeah, his car blows up, and so there you go. And at the same time, Heather, back at Langley, Heather asks, Dewey and the other superiors, if she can personally bring in Bourne for questioning. So this is where the first inkling of her being on Bourne's side is thrown, because everybody else just wants to kill Bourne right away. And she's like, no, I want to bring him in for questioning. So that she's, not completely evil because she doesn't want to kill him. So that's about...
Yeah, like, for me, though, I felt like she went from one side of wanting to kill Jason Bourne to, let's just bring him in, handled way too quickly.
Well, I didn't think it was handled too quickly. At the beginning, I don't think she wanted to kill Bourne at the beginning. I think she was just, she's just a hacker. She's, again, like the Pamela Landy character, the Joan Allen character in the other films. She's in over her head. She's just doing her job. And I think that's her character in a nutshell. She'll do anything to get her promotion. I feel like she's very career driven.
That I do give you that. Like she just wants to move up the ranks and eventually be Tommy Lee Jones.
Yeah, and she is by the end of the film. Like,
or it's implied.
No, she's directly told, "You're the new director of."
I don't remember that. Actually.
Yeah, that black dude, the black helper guy, the one black character in the whole film. He's like, "You will be the new deputy," and then she kind of smiles. It's briefly in a hallway, but.
All right, I didn't remember that scene, but okay.
Yeah, but anyway, so then Bourne goes to find a former. I forget exactly how he found out who it was. It must have been in Nikki's files, but he finds a former Treadstone associate.
Yeah, but it was in Nikki's files.
Yeah, and his name is Malcolm Smith, and he's played by this guy. He's one of those guys you see in everything, but you don't know his name, like one of those actors.
I forget who it was.
His name is Bill Camp, and I looked up his IMDb, and he's like in like a bunch of movies recently. He was in Black Mass, 12 Years a Slave, and Birdman. So
I knew I saw him in Black Mass. I knew that much.
Yeah, he plays. He's just one of those guys. Look him up.
He's a character actor.
Yeah, he's a character actor, and he's in a lot of movies. And he basically exists in this film just to tell Bourne a little bit more about his past, and then he gets shot. So.
Very brutally too, by the way.
Yeah. So yeah, but he tells basically Bourne about how the CIA, basically killed his father as an incentive. They killed his father as an incentive for Bourne to join the Treadstone program. Him thinking that it was terrorists and not the CIA that, actually killed his father. And as soon as he gives that information, the asset shows up again, Vincent Cassell, and he kills Malcolm, and then, that's that with that character, I guess.
Yeah. A waste, unfortunately.
Yeah. So that was kind of strange that character. He just existed to die. Sorry, Bill Camp.
Which is some of the supporting actors in the previous Bourne movies too.
Yeah. So anyway, Bourne escapes. He escapes from the grip of the asset, and he's picked up by Heather, who is also on the scene. And she basically, in her van, she says, "Come into my van," and he walks in. I don't know why he's trusting her. There's no
candy in it.
Yeah, there's no candy. She says, "Hey, come into my van." Hey. Word of advice: never approach a stranger's van and get into it. But Bourne does so anyway because he's
even
badass.
Even if it's Alicia Vikander.
I know. Well, he probably knows that he can punch her with a single blow, so he gets into her van anyway.
He's a very strong man.
He's a very strong man. But anyway, she agrees. She basically is now saying, "I want to help you, Bourne." Basically because she wants Dewey's job. She agrees to help, get rid of Dewey in whatever means possible. And so she gives him all the materials and the go-ahead to travel to the U.S. She rigs the immigration, computer program somehow, because she's a hacker. She can do anything. Yeah. And so he is allowed to go through, customs at the airport to go back to the U.S. without being detected because she's a hacker and she can perform magic tricks apparently. And so he travels to Las Vegas.
I want to give a special shout out on the Vegas scene to an old classmate of mine, Devin Lyons, who actually helped shoot that scene.
Oh, well, Devin, congratulations.
Congratulations. One of the better scenes in the movie for sure.
Yeah. And I'm sure it's all because of that person, that scene worked.
He's a hard worker. I'm proud of him.
Anyway, so now we're in Las Vegas. There's another convention for Deep Dream there, and Kalor and Dewey, the Silicon Valley guy, and Tommy Lee Jones are the main speakers. And basically, Dewey, because he's the ruthless Tommy Lee Jones bad guy character, he tells the asset to kill Kalor in front of all the people watching for some reason. But he wants him to take him out because he met with Kalor earlier, and he's having second thoughts about this whole CIA thing. He says, "I value privacy too much. I don't want to give you the right to, I don't want to give you the back door for the CIA to have an eye in the sky or whatever for every single, living person who has Deep Dream." So what is the answer? Murder him. That's
murder him And then they find out Alicia Vikander is also involved. So the solution? Murder her too.
Yeah, he just murder everybody. Wait, they don't realize Alicia Vikander's
yes,
involved?
Yes, they do.
I don't remember that part.
Yeah, they do. That's why Tommy Lee Jones has her sit down in a certain area, and he tells Vincent Cassell, get her too.
Oh, well, she sends a text to Bourne and says something's wrong.
Yeah, but because she knows he knows.
Yeah. Well, it's a little ambiguous exactly what's going on, but you just get a sense that Dewey wants to kill all loose ends that could be potential threats.
Right. Which again, Tommy Lee Jones did a fantastic job as a really kind of intimidating villain.
I mean, Tommy Lee Jones can be intimidating just sitting there doing nothing. I mean, he's just has that face, the Tommy Lee Jones face. I don't know if
he's a pure talent right there.
Yeah, I don't know if you've seen that at the Oscars when they just cut to Tommy Lee Jones and he just has that face like
he always does.
Yeah, like he has a murderer's gait, I guess you could say.
But he was Agent J. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, J. He was right
in Men in Black. Yeah,
one of my favorite movies of all time.
Yeah. So anyway, so he wants to kill all these people, and then the agent or the asset actually gets a shot out, and he only manages to shoot Kalor in the shoulder because Bourne is also in the crowd because his immigration went through. Now he's in Las Vegas, and he shoots
a light to his face.
And he what?
He moves a light to his eyes.
Oh yeah, he moves a light to his eyes, and then he shoots the ventilator shaft where he's hiding. So yeah, he foils that plan, and then there's a lot of chasing going on. And in the middle of the chasing, Bourne happens upon Dewey just chilling in a random hotel room, just sitting there. It's like he knew Bourne was gonna pop in, and he tries to convince Bourne to join the program again, even though he knows that he killed his father and all these things. He's just one last time, he said. I forget exactly what he says, but he tries to convince him back to the program.
You need to find out who you are.
Yeah,
it was along those lines.
Yeah, just sort of generic, this is what you need to do.
This is your destiny.
Yeah, this is your density. Destiny.
This is your destiny, Jason.
Yeah. But that he's just wants to kill him because he slowly pulls out a gun. But who comes in to save the day is not Jason Bourne, but Alicia Vikander pops out and she guns down Dewey herself. She kills him with a gun, and I was shocked. What did you think of that scene? Were you shocked by that?
I knew that was going to happen.
You did. Well, I guess you're more with it than I am.
The thing is, the big problem I had with this movie, I didn't mention earlier, but out of all the Jason Bourne movies, I thought this one was the most predictable. You could read each scene right through and knew what was going to happen next.
Yeah, I guess. I mean,
Ultimatum and Supremacy didn't have that predictability value in my eyes.
I don't know. I feel like they're all pretty predictable, but I feel like all the Bourne movies move so fast it doesn't even give me time to predict. It's just one thing after the other. So I don't know. I didn't have a problem with it. I was actually shocked that she's the one that killed Dewey, but I love the fact that she killed him because, not only did she want him dead in the first place, but also that puts her or she at least thinks that puts her in a power play with Bourne. He owes her one because she did him a solid by shooting him. So, it just added to her character, which is this calculating woman who just wants to get ahead no matter what. Her killing Dewey, the way she killed him wasn't so much this emotional response. It was this totally purely calculated move for her to move up in the CIA and also to earn a favor with Bourne,
Yeah, I give you that. I don't disagree.
So now that he's dead, then the chase continues because the asset is still running around. And then the best part of the movie happens, which is the chase. There is a car chase between the asset and Jason Bourne on the Las Vegas Strip that I thought was so cool.
I thought it was... That, I do agree with you, was the best scene in the movie.
Oh, yeah, because the asset, he hijacks an armored police van, and he basically just drives through all the cars and traffic on the Las Vegas Strip, and just destroying everything in its path. It's this behemoth.
It was such a creative, crazy, kinetic scene. I liked... there was nothing wrong with that scene in my eyes.
It was high octane and extreme Tony Hawk style.
Oh, yeah.
You know? So there's not really much to say about it. It's just really exciting. They're weaving
I thought it was a
in and
really
out.
cool scene.
Yeah, so it was just a really, really well-crafted car chase. It was badass. And then Bourne, eventually, he drives his car off like a ledge and then mid-air jackknifes his sports car that he's driving into the Asset's car, or, armored van, and, which is badass, rendering the vehicle moot or whatever. And then he chases him into a tunnel on foot after that. And then they have a very brutal fist fight in a tunnel.
I love that scene too. Like that.
You love that scene? I thought you would have hated that scene.
No, I love the fist fight scene. I thought that was a really good scene.
Well, yeah, the fist fight was badass. And then Jason Bourne, it's very brutal and goes on forever. And then Jason Bourne eventually gets the upper hand and literally snaps his neck and then just walks away like a badass.
No, I thought that was a really, really well done scene. Yeah. Like, that whole sequence was fantastic.
And the whole time they were fighting, I'm like, this is definitely like, you killed my father, you killed my teammates. And they're just duking it out. You could feel that. It wasn't just like, this is a job. This was like, it was personal. It got real.
In that scene, I will give you that much. I don't disagree.
That's why I liked the Vincent Cassel character, because that final fight scene, just like that, the emotion in that fight scene I felt was there, and I really enjoyed it. So that justified the sort of, it was a little simple, but it worked. I mean, the Bourne films are very simple films. They're literally just action chase movies when you get down to it.
I thought the fist fight scene in particular was extremely well edited too. Props to Christopher Rouse, who edited that movie, even though he wrote a pretty bad script.
Yeah. I don't know. But anyway, he kills him. So Dewey and that guy's dead. And then the movie pretty much wraps up from there. That's the final big action scene. So all the, wrap-ups are Kalor is basically going to blow the lid off of Iron Hand. I almost said Ironside. It's Iron Hand. So that he's going to do that because he was not killed at the Las Vegas thing. And Heather is promoted to the, Dewey's former position, and just like she wanted. And, no one knows that she murdered him. Everyone thinks it's Bourne, but, And then eventually she agrees to meet with Bourne in a park and tries to convince him to join the CIA again. And he says, I'll think about it. But when she goes back to her car, she notices that there's a video recording of her conversation with one of the CIA associates just moments ago, where she was basically saying that she was going to bring in Bourne herself, and she was going to take him down or something. So he was listening to her that whole time, and and she's kind of pissed off by that. She's like, she felt like her privacy was violated, which runs into this theme of surveillance. It's like, the people who are surveilling don't like it when they are surveilled. So there you go.
And personally, the ending I felt it was kind of bland. I thought it didn't. The originals, I felt oomphed me at the end, pumped me up. This one, I was just like, okay, that's a sequel tease.
I will agree. I was a little I felt it was a very odd place to end the film.
Me too.
And it definitely felt. I mean, Bourne does walk away like a badass, and the same Moby song is played again, that.
That's
cue.
the theme of the movie.
Yeah, that's the theme. But I definitely thought it was the weakest moment where it goes, with that music cue, where it's like, Burn.
It wasn't as bad as Legacy, so.
I don't even remember what happens in that movie. I tried to block that out movie. I tried to block that movie out.
I'm sorry, you're right.
I want to pretend that movie does. Yeah, I want to pretend that doesn't exist. So
sorry, Jeremy Renner. I still love you.
Yeah. So anyway, that's really the end of the film. So I guess my final question for you, Matt, is, would you like a sequel to this film, and in what direction would you like this movie to go, if there was one?
The thing is, as I mentioned earlier, this movie brings out a really huge fatal flaw, which is Jason Bourne now knows who he is, and that makes him a less interesting character. It makes the stories more unnecessary, and it just is. it just makes me worried if they do make a sequel that what are they going to do next? Are they going to do another bland, generic story?
I think if they make another one, they have to stop with the flashback plot device of him learning about his past. There's nothing else to learn. Like
the one thing I do have to say, and I agree with you, that they could do if they implemented the sequel, you're not going to agree with this. I think they should bring in Aaron Cross in the sequel. Jeremy Renner's character.
Oh.
Because
whatever.
He's still trying to discover who he is. So Jason Bourne trying to show him about it, I think would make a more interesting sequel.
I honestly think they should continue down this path with Vikander and Bourne and really build up their ambiguous relationship with each other. And I think Vikander, they kind of poise her. Like, I don't know. It's very ambiguous at the end of this film if there's a sequel, if she's going to be a good guy or a bad guy.
I think she'll be a good guy.
I think if they made her like this, ultimately a bad guy, she chooses her career over Bourne. I think that would be a very interesting, if they made her more of this ambiguous character in the sequel, and because she is the Dewey character now. She's responsible for all those like programs, and so I feel like she could bring something to the table if they wrote up her character a little bit more. So
I do see that working well, but one thing I do have to say, and you're probably not going to agree with this, I think Greengrass needs to retire from this series personally. At least
I do too.
From a screenplay level, at least.
I think there needs to be. You know what? This series, I think Greengrass has done enough with the series. They're starting to look way too similar. I think they should do what the Mission Impossible movies do, which is for the most part, new directors every film.
Yes, and Greengrass should do what he does best, which is making films based on true stories, like his masterpiece, United 93.
He's a journalist.
Yeah, and have a handheld, personal perspective on a tragedy. Or, I didn't think it worked as well in Captain Phillips, but he does have a sense of story and perspective and human tragedy that I would much rather him do movies like that than another Bourne sequel.
Yeah, I thought he did a good job with this. I just think it's time for a new voice with the series. If we're
and it's not Justin Lin either, like it was originally planned to be.
Yeah. So, any last thought, or you done here?
I do want to give a plug to my blog, which is vealvision@wordpress.com. And I have a new video up, which I mentioned last week, which is a wedding I did for an old high school classmate of me and Peter's. Yeah.
And if you want to find more of my work, you can look up Talking the Talkies with Peter Waters, which is located at pwatersreviews.blogspot.com. You can also follow me on Letterboxd, and that's about it. So that wraps it up for our review of Jason Bourne. Next week, we will be reviewing a film that hopefully gets the DC cinematic universe back on track.
I hope so, at least.
Yeah, so we will be reviewing David Ayer's Suicide Squad.
Ayer, I thought is how you pronounce it.
However you pronounce it, we'll be reviewing Suicide Squad next week. So hopefully, if technology, works, we'll be doing that.
Yep, let's hope so this time.
Yep. All right, guys.
Take care.
You're never gonna find any peace. Not till you admit to yourself who you really are.